We are going to have to create like a weekly segment, like the toxic fool of the week or something like that. 'Cause it seems like every week on GameFace we have at least one story, one topic that originates from someone being a jerk on the interwebs. This week's entry comes courtesy of Riot and League of Legends. So there's this guy, his name's Tyler1, who has been a thorn in the side of Riot for literally years now.
I think I've heard of this guy before.
He's a streamer, and his thing is to just be a jerk. Basically, troll his team, yell, scream, get angry. He's been banned countless times. He taunts Riot when he gets banned and says, oh, I'm just going to create another character, and then he does, and then he gets away with it again. And it has been this back and forth thing with this guy and Riot for years now. And
what does this guy do specifically that makes him worse than any other League of Legends player? That
I don't know. I mean, when
because
you
he's
play,
just dedication.
It's not even here. The thing about League of Legends is there's no chat, so you can't talk to your teammates. Which, when you think about the game, is completely idiotic. Like, because it is such a team-focused game, you should have voice chat to talk to these people. But then, when you start to get to know the League of Legends community, you realize you probably would rather lose than talk with these people on your team. So there's a catch-22 to play here. But this guy's a streamer, so while he can't really taunt other players he's playing with, he can just grief them and just do things to make sure that they lose. And then there is text chat in League of Legends where people can go back and forth and whatnot. So he has just basically been a toxic player who makes a living off being toxic. That's his shtick, is being a jerk. People watch him, they love him, they give him whatever on Twitch. People watch his YouTube archives, etc., etc. Well, finally, someone at Riot broke. His name was Aaron Rutledge. He was a developer on League of Legends, and he finally just got to the point where he just couldn't take it anymore. And he went on a tirade on, I believe it was, League of Legends official Discord chat. And here, I have the transcript of exactly what he said in Discord. And this is from Aaron Rutledge, formerly of Riot. He has since resigned. Maybe would have been fired by Riot. Technically, he resigned. So here's what he wrote. I don't know if I know what this word is. He looks like a damn homunculus.
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 Yeah. That's like a magically created like fake human creature thing.
This guy
like
does have
Puppet Master.
This guy does have a very unique look, I would add.
Have you seen Puppet Master? Those old horror movies? So like those would be considered homunculuses, like little human-like created monster things.
This guy does have a very unique look, and that's all I'm going to say. He has a shaved head, and yeah. Honestly, it's fine.
It sounds fine.
It's so bad. Honestly, it's fine. He'll die from a coke overdose or testicular cancer from all the steroids. Then we'll be Gucci. I don't even know what that means. And then then the Discord users were like, yo, what are you doing, man? What are you and then this is how he replied to the Discord chatters. You know how much bullshit he's caused me personally? I've spent many, many hours of my workday dealing with his bullshit. If games had terrorists, ... I mean, I get it. I get the comedy of his streams and his quote, and he has in quotes, brand. But it's at the expense of a lot of other innocent people, and that's not cool. He's had over 20 accounts perma-banned.
Wow.
All content gone, all rank gone. What kind of sociopath does that? He only does it for the views and for the money. And so that, and then people went freaked out on him and said, this is your customer, and had part of the community, and, well, I agree.
I mean, technically, the woman screaming at the barista asking to see the manager for the 14th time is your customer, too.
No, you're right.
At a certain point, you got to have to ask them to leave the store.
And you don't want their money.
Right.
Yeah. And so that was pretty much the extent of what he said. And then he was put under so much pressure by the League of Legends community, standing up for a toxic person, I might add, that he felt he needed to resign. And so he resigned, and then Tyler1, this is his response after everything happened. It really sucks that some people still hold a massive grudge versus old T1 and refuse to acknowledge I've changed.
What?
With that being said, I have no hard feelings towards the guy. Shit happens. Yeah.
He changed?
Shit really did happen.
Yeah.
You were a jerk, and
man
got
no longer has a
somebody
job.
fired. That is the shit that happened.
Weird.
Isn't it? So basically, Tyler1 is saying, like most toxic people do, they come to this point where they say, I've changed. And now that I've said that I've changed, you need to accept that I've changed and forget everything I did before.
It's like all of a sudden we have to call Angry Joe Understanding Joe.
Right.
Patient Joe. Like, just don't ever mention him again. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
You were Angry Joe for years. You'll always be Angry Joe to me.
I've known Joe for a long time, actually. Not a huge fan, but...
Yeah. I like talking to him. He knows his stuff. I mean, he's got his character and whatever, but, like, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I always go back to the whole thing with Jeff Keighley, where he acted like a complete ass. But that was a long time ago.
For that.
And in that case, that is...
And he's changed.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. That's a case where, sure, like, I can forgive somebody for doing that. I don't know if Keighley ever has, but I can. But this guy literally, just like a month after he declares he's the new Tyler1, can't accept that he still...
He could have at least changed his name to Tyler, too.
Right.
I mean, if we're going to symbolic.
I wish I had read the replies to, because this was a tweet that he sent. I wish I had read the replies to that tweet to see if somebody had mentioned something along those lines. But I did not read the replies, because I figured they were probably just as toxic as the stuff that he's been doing. Matt, what do you make of this? Who is in the right, who is in the wrong here?
We're in a very strange era. That's what I make of this. I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about Tyler1.
Well, I gave you his background already. He's known to be toxic. He's built his brand on being toxic.
If he's been that bad about it, I don't really see why anything that Rutledge said was bad enough to require him to leave his job.
Yeah.
Usually most players don't like the toxic players very much. That's weird to me.
Isn't it surprising that people have kind of stood up for him?
Yeah, I mean... If he's that much of an issue, why is I mean, I guess they're his fans or people that like watching him do that? Or?
I mean, he says here that he said in another quote that the guy was making over $100,000 a year off of basically Riot's work and being toxic over Riot's work.
When Riot...
When do you think... I guess maybe the question is, when do you think it's okay to let a customer have it?
Probably around the 20th permaban.
Yeah.
Like, I would think.
Because, I mean, anyone who runs a business eventually reaches this point where they have to ask themselves, is it worth me blowing this person out of the water?
Right.
Because, I mean, we get comments on YouTube all the time from people that are just have no idea what they're talking about.
I mean, it's probably...
And I just delete them because it's not worth it for me to
Yeah,
respond
I mean,
to
the
them,
difference there is that you are the owner of SIFTD, and this guy doesn't make policy for Riot. I mean, who knows? Internally, I'm sure there was like, hey, we can't have random developers getting on the Discord and calling people assholes. Like,
well, the other thing too, though, is
whether they are or not.
All of Riot knew this guy because he had been an issue, a thorn in their side for years and years, and many people had had to work on problems that he had created. So it wasn't like it was just some random user who went off the handle and he went off the handle. Then, like, this was a build-up.
Yeah. I mean, but apparently Riot doesn't know what IP banning is. I don't...
They just can't ban. They can't ban him. I mean, he can go through a proxy and hide his IP address and blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't work. Here, maybe the better question is, if you were Riot, would you have fired Aaron Rutledge?
No, but I probably would have told him to stay off the Discord.
Yeah.
Like that's not gonna win you any favors, really. Yeah. Like having random Riot employees talking about how much they hate one particular guy.
But Matt, do you think maybe some of the more law-abiding citizens who play League of Legends might appreciate him finally standing up and being like, "Look, dude."
Sure, but like that's not proper channels. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, a corporate environment, and I know Riot is a very loose kind of like, hey, we're all part of the we're all bros, part of the same team. We're all working towards the same thing. We're making this amazing game. But they are still a corporate environment when it comes down to it because they're a multi-billion-dollar brand. I think billion at this point
for sure.
And I mean, it's like Blizzard made the announcement about how we've wasted time dealing with toxic people instead of making the game better. But that was an official statement from the person at Blizzard who is hired to make that statement.
Right.
Like it's different from some developer of the game sort of mouthing off in a chat room, which is basically what's happening here. And no matter how much I sympathize with what he's saying there, like, yeah, that's going to get you in trouble. Like back in the day, we couldn't have gone on the message boards at G4 and been like, yeah, this one guy who keeps sending us email is crazy. Like we can't, that's not going to fly.
Well, the other part of it too is that we have not seen the Riot employee handbook where they clearly lay out what you can and can't do. And the bottom line is if it says you can't do this and he did it, then it's a moot point.
I mean, it sounds to me like he just, had a bad enough day with it that he decided to vent over it and it came back at him. And like that happened,
we're human.
We've all been there, and we've also all seen people get fired over similar things. Maybe not as public as this, but I've seen plenty of stuff like that over the years.
People doing dumb stuff.
Some of
it's not even dumb. It's just
not even dumb. It's just that one moment, and there it is. And then you're like, where's blah blah blah? And they're like, oh, sit down. There's a story to tell. And it's like, and usually it doesn't happen right out in front like this, but like it happens. And like I get why it became an issue for Riot, but like I don't know. The only person who seems to have had no consequences here is the guy who got banned 20 times.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what his reply just rubs me so raw, dude. It really sucks that some people still hold a massive grudge versus old T1. He is trying to say, it's your fault, bro. Mm-hmm. It's your fault. You're holding a grudge.
Well, this is the new permutation of his brand.
Right.
It's kind of the sanctimonious, I have changed and you can't accept it, so that makes you the jerk thing.
Right.
Which is a pretty standard tactic.
That's been happening a lot lately in our society in general, not just in games. And I think, I started talking about this topic by saying, maybe we need to have, the toxic jerk of the week or whatever on the show, which was a joke or whatever, maybe not. But where is this all going, though, Matt? What is the answer, the solution to this? Because this is something that's just happening every week now, where we're finding toxic people in our community are either hindering development of a game we all love, or are getting good people fired from their positions. And again, while I probably wouldn't have did what he did, I wasn't in his situation. I wasn't the one who maybe had to work tons of overtime trying to deal with crap that this guy stirred up. Can't really put myself in his shoes. I wouldn't do what he did. I wouldn't fire him for what he did based upon the evidence that we have. But you're right. At the end here, it appears Tyler1 has won. Where is this? How do we address this? How do we fix this?
Keep banning him.
Just ignore. I mean, but it's hard to...
What else can you do?
They're in a unique position, though, where...
short of hiring hitmen, there's not a whole lot you can do about that.
They're in a position different from, say, a business owner like me, where they're in a place, well, maybe I'm not all that different, where one customer is ruining the experience for the other customers. Mm-hmm. And we have had that problem on SIFTD, where we've had members who have been toxic and come on, but we just ban them.
Yeah, they're trying, but, it's also an element of scale, where it's like, one person, trolling or doing, jerky stuff on SIFTD can really impact a large percentage of SIFTD users' experience. One person doing that on League of Legends is not going to be noticed by 98% of the player base because it's so huge.
Just all the people that he plays with.
Yeah, which is not that many people all told. So clearly Riot is trying to do something or they wouldn't keep banning the guy.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's not a whole lot you can do. You already can't voice chat in the game. Just text chat, right?
Yeah.
What else? You put a satellite over his house and see when he's logging on and
And there's an extensive reporting system in League of Legends where after each game you can rate every player that you play with. And look, a lot of people use that to be vindictive or to punish people who aren't good at the game. People are pretty scummy with how they use the system. And that's been a problem for Riot all along, is trying to filter out the people who are being vindictive using it and the people who are legitimately using it. Mm-hmm. What I usually did whenever I would report someone for doing the stuff that this guy would do, with griefing or just intentionally losing or getting pissy because he didn't get the lane that he wanted or whatever, is I would actually take the time to write a sentence. Mm. Because you can just report, and there's a field where you can type an explanation. I feel like people who really care about people ruining the experience will take the time to write something. And so I always try to do that whenever... But there's no real solution to this, is there?
Not really. It's always going to be jerks.
Yeah.
And, it's been around forever. There used to be people that, remember in Phantasy Star Online when, there was a way to delete somebody's character by, text stuff you'd send in a lobby? Like that, I mean, people would just do that. People go, like, you could lose hundreds and hundreds of hours off of that.
I remember, too, back when there was, like, that Meseta trick where people could give other people, like, huge gobs of Meseta. I had a friend who tried to give it to me, and he had to drop it on the ground. And you'd have these people who would stand, like, 5 feet away, and they'd wait to see that Meseta drop, and they'd dart over, and they'd take it from you before you could pick it up. So, I mean, look, griefing and acting like a jerk online is nothing new. Unfortunately, it feels like because the online portions of these games are quickly becoming the entire game. It used to be kind of this little part of the game that you could choose to experience or not.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
but now it's not that way. It's like these games are all connected now. So you just if you don't want to deal with people online, you just can't. You don't play the game at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a friend of a friend wrote an article that's been passed around a bit recently, and it was titled, I don't know how to explain to you why you should care about other people.
Yeah, I read that article.
And it kind of like I remember back in the old Tech TV days, we used to, in the early era of online stuff, and we even had a character on X-Player called the Griefer that I played.
Yeah, that's right.
And like we did a bunch of stuff like that, and I kind of went over like the annoying things people did in games, like which in retrospect was probably just giving people ideas.
That's always a slippery slope.
We kind of blew that one, I guess. But we used to think. I remember like Adam and we used to talk about how like, oh, well, in the future, eventually, when everything kind of converges and like your real name and like your identity is sort of wrapped up in in who you are online, and it's not just a bunch of people under pseudonyms, it will get better because people won't want to be. Apparently not.
Well, we've had that debate on GameFace before about using real names.
Right.
And everyone seems to be split on that. I think that is honestly a solution, though, that could work a little bit. But then you go online.
You go online and you see people like making under their own names on Facebook with their employer underneath them, talking about like the most horribly like.
It really is crazy.
Like what people no one thinks that what they think can be touched or what. I don't know what it is.
I mean, lots of people do get fired for that stuff.
Oh yeah, but like
I mean, it's not like nobody like actually goes and reports them or anything.
But it's not on their mind when they do it, and for the small percentage of people who actually suffer consequences, I have tons of people just are a jerk to somebody in a game or whatever, and that person who was jerked to has to deal with it. Yeah. And some on like Twitter or something, I guess the solution is either to take a break or block them or whatever, but like on a game like League of Legends, you can only do so much, and you can't just drop out of the game because then that impacts your rating.
Right.
And I don't know.
That is another problem with League of Legends.
Yeah.
Is if you don't want to play with somebody who's a jerk, you don't have a choice, you got to stick with it. Even if you end up in a game where other players on your team drop, and the other team has a full team, you have to play the game all the way out.
So when in the rating system afterward, can you mark someone as someone you don't want to be matched with later, or is that a...
You can. In certain modes, you can. If you play like ranked, like you don't really have control over who you play with.
Okay.
But if you're just playing casual, yeah, you can block people so you don't get matched up with them again.
I mean, it's a big thing. Like my girlfriend plays Overwatch all the time, and like her and her friends won't play ranked.
Yeah.
Because it's so bad in there.
That's where the worst people are.
So...
You wouldn't. To me, you would think it would be the reverse, but that's not how it works out.
No, well, because it's the toxic people that care so much about
that they act that way.
About the rank. So, and of course, you're going to get better reactions from non-toxic people in ranked because the people playing ranked probably care about getting further in ranked, and ruining that experience is going to get you a more drastic reaction than ruining someone's casual game.
Yeah. So, I think the funny thing about...
It's just choosing their targets, really.
No, you're right. I think the irony in all this is that generally toxic people are some of the best players. I mean, in almost every multiplayer game I've ever played, the people who are the biggest jerks tend to be one of the best players in each match.
That's interesting. I haven't run into that too much. And I mean, the last real jerk I ran was probably in like Halo Reach or something.
Wow.
I don't play a lot of online shooter stuff or online things. Like I played mostly fighters online, and very rarely I will win or lose a match and I'll get a message from them on PSN or whatever. It's always either nice cheap moves if I won, or you suck and should stop playing forever if I lost, even if it was like down to like the last round and a sliver of life. It's just like, you suck, don't ever play this again or something. I'm just like, I almost beat you, dude.
Well, the classic is uninstall.
Delete your account. Yeah,
my first week of playing League of Legends, after every game, I pretty much got the real Dinfire uninstall like after every game. And I'd be like, it was my third game, be nice. Yeah. It's but you're right. I mean, I think that's another problem. It's not a problem necessarily, but I think that's another issue with this is that there's a big part of the brethren who don't play online and don't have to deal with it. But the people that do are the ones who are like screaming from the rooftops, "We need to do something." And everyone else is like, "Ain't my problem."
Well, then like the like when I would play with my group online, which we haven't, that group kind of disintegrated a couple years ago. But basically, we would play and we'd get all the achievements in the Halo games and the Gears and stuff like that. But we would always do it in like a party. And so you couldn't hear anybody else.
Right.
So if anyone else was being a jerk, we didn't know.
Didn't even know about it.
Like who knew? Like
nothing makes them more angry either.
Right. Like every once in a while, maybe you'd have a guy come up and just start, like meleeing you in the face. Like okay, I'm like, okay, clearly this guy's trying to annoy us and we can't hear him.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna stand here and dance.
Yeah.
Like, so,
that's great.
I mean that's how we deal with it. Obviously,
there are ways. Yeah.
That is not always an option because it's, if someone's harassing you on that level, especially women have a harder time with it. Where like. They'll get harassed on a whole different level from, harassment and abuse in that regard happens about evenly between men and women, but women there's like a soft and a hard kind of abuse, and women get the hard version way more than we do.
For sure.
And although that doesn't necessarily mean, and sometimes you'll see dudes like suddenly suffer like half a day of abuse and just crumble. Like,
they can't hold it together.
So never underestimate the psychic cost of being on the receiving end of that kind of thing.
You're absolutely right.
So I don't want to minimize the idea of like, oh, just ignore them. Like, what are you going to do? Because that's not a solution to a lot of people. But like,
it does alter people's behavior. For instance, if
the game allows you to ignore someone effectively,
yeah,
I think that's probably the best option.
But it does alter people's behavior because we were doing the live stream. My wife stopped by a couple times to bring me food and to just say hello and make sure I was alive, and she would not come on camera. She's like, I'm not going on camera because she remembers what it was like when I worked at GT and when I worked at GameSpot, and my mom and my sisters would send her emails and be like, "Oh my God, can you believe the stuff that they're saying about Shane online?" And like she just read like one thread of it and was like, "Never again." So. It does affect some. It never even happened to her. It happened to me. And just her seeing it happen to me was enough for her to be like, I want no part of that. So,
well, also similar things that probably happen to her in real life.
Sure.
With jerks, and she's, there's no reason to expose yourself to another line of that.
Yeah.
There's another way for people to harass me. Awesome.
But I think, but the point I was trying to make with that though is that it is turning off people from playing online. Where we could have more people who are great people playing, but they're like, I want no part of that.
Yeah, it's absolutely one of the reasons I never got into MOBAs.
Yeah.
It was like, no, I dabbled a little bit, and it was just like,
I get it now.
Like, I get why it's appealing, but I don't want to wade through you people, so that was the end of it.
Cost-benefit analysis did not work out too good.
Pretty much.